Welcome. My name is John Glantz. I'm joined today by Stanton Smith, and we're here to talk about kind of a roadmap for a successful CCaaS migration. So, and then as a coming attraction, mark your calendars for November 17th for the Genesis admin training, work teams overview and InQ flow. So we'll go ahead and get started real quick. So here's what we're going to cover today. Just a brief introduction to Inflow CX for those of you that don't know us, and then we'll get into kind of the meat of the topic, which is really setting up your CCaaS migration for success. And then we'll have some time for a question and answer, and then we'll go from there. So first, who is Inflow CX? We're a provider of strategic advisory, so consulting, deployment, and managed services for contact center, customer experience, and unified communication solutions. So we'll help your organizations basically select, execute, and optimize your customer engagement strategy. We're about 80 employees now. We've done over 500 successful CCaaS deployments. We've done over 300 contact center consulting engagements and over 1,000 unified communication projects. You can see there are kind of industry accolades and standing, and then you can see both what our employees and our customers say about us. Our customers on G2 and our employees on Glassdoor. So we're very proud of both of those. This is just a small list of the clients we work with. You can see that we work across all industries, across all the functions that we support. And then, of course, we partner with all the leading players in the CX technology space. You can see the CCaaS providers: Genesis 5.9, NICE CX1. In addition to the other ones listed, and the CX ecosystem, literally across all that ecosystem. And then finally on the UCaaS space, all the leading players in that space as well. So now we'll transition into what our kind of topic today. And I'm going to turn it over to Stanton to kind of get us started.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. So the main takeaway that I want you to get from this slide is that there's a lot going on in the CX space. Initially up front, we might think of just the contact center and everything that needs to go into that. But the purpose of this slide is to give you an overview, to give you a vision of the landscape of what we've got in play here. Yes, we've got the contact center, we've got our CRM, we've got our UC, analytics reporting. There's so many different aspects of customer experience that need to be touched on and addressed. And it's important that we have this high-level overview so that as we develop our plan, we've got vision of where we need to go and what it's going to take to get us there. You go to the next one, please, Kylie. Thank you so much. So there are a lot of different players within this space, and they are all good at what they do in different areas. And one of the keys to success in this is understanding who plays well together, which solutions are best in class versus all in one, what's the right fit for your company, depending on the types of resources that you have or the timeline that you have. And looking at how we want to structure and build this out so that you can have a successful experience. So really there are three main phases in having this successful migration and transition. The first is set the plan. Let's lay the foundation for what we want to do. Who should be involved in this project? Let's make sure that we've got a timeline and that we know which aspects of that timeline are key critical dates. And we can track how we're doing against those throughout time. One of the biggest risks that I've found that companies face in these projects is that they think they have a lot more time than they actually do. To be able to go through this, it can take effort. We need to make sure that we've got a good defined criteria of when we're going to make things happen and what success is going to look like. So we'll look at what types of data that we need to grab, what should go into the decision, and importantly, how we are going to decide what's successful or not. It's very important to establish not only a plan, but also a scorecard so that as you evaluate solutions, you've got something that's data driven and objective as to why you're taking the steps that you're taking. And part of this, with the process being so involved with a lot of moving parts, it's helpful to have somebody who can help guide you through that process, such as InflowCX. Go to the next one, please, Heidi. Or Kylie, sorry. So the next phase of it is once you've got that foundation laid, you know where you want to go, you've got it mapped out. Now we really kind of dig in and make sure that we document this. With so many different pieces of projects such as these, it can be easy to lose sight of something that has just been spoken about in meetings. It's important that we've got it written down, and so that not only do we keep track of it all, but everybody has a voice throughout the process. There are a lot of different groups that need to be involved, and we need to make sure that the solution that's decided upon is going to work for all groups, not just one or two of them. So as we go through these conversations, we discuss, what are the challenges we're facing? What costs do we have right now in our current solution? Let's really document what our landscape looks right now in the current state. Where do we feel the most pain in the contact center? What areas can we get the best lift on by removing some of these roadblocks from our path? And then identifying, based on that, which technologies will help bridge that gap or fill that void. I also think while a lot of these solutions have very broad scopes, I think it's very important to identify 4 to 5 specific core use cases that you want to see how a particular solution will solve for that exact need. So, for example, one thing that we see from time to time, or fairly often, is if a customer calls in to your company, into your contact center, what's the agent experience like? And so we can say, all right, I want to see how on this particular solution, when a customer calls in, there's an automatic screen pop from the Salesforce record. It pulls up all relevant history for this customer, past notes, can tell what past experience was, how long it's been since they last contacted us, if they have any open orders, what they might be calling about, and identify those things and bring it up, present it to the agent right off the bat, because that helps save a lot of time in the interaction, which is both a positive experience for the customer as well as for the agent. And as we have those use cases in place, then we can score, especially against those when different vendors show us in their demonstrations how their solution will solve for that need. So yes, please, Kylie, the next one, and we'll talk to that. So we want to make sure that we've got enough to look at, but we don't want to overwhelm ourselves. I've seen people come into projects like this and they've identified 10, 11, 12 different providers who they want to evaluate. And that tends to get very cumbersome, and it takes away from your core focus, which is running your business. So best practice is identify 2 to 3 who are top of the game, who you feel have a chance at meeting these needs. And then all that documentation that you put together of what your current state is, what your desired future state is, where the pain points are, what those gaps are, share that document with them. That way they'll know that when they come in to show you a demo of their platform, it's not going to be generic. It's going to be specific to what you actually need to succeed. It's going to be relevant to you. Another piece on this is to be able to perform an ROI and TCO analysis. That's a big part of models such as these, is to see not only how is this going to make for a better customer and agent experience, but what's the financial impact to the business that this will have. And as we use these data-driven scorecards along with ROI analysis, it really helps us to have a very clear view as to which technology partner should be selected within this process.
So thanks, Stanton. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in here. So sometimes through this analysis and gathering requirements, many times we'll identify areas that need to be tightened up or enabled in order to achieve that ROI that Stanton reference. And so there's really kind of three key areas to really look at. And the first one really here is that when you're going to acquire a new capability. So for example, we work with contact centers all the time that maybe are running their workforce management function off of spreadsheets. Maybe they're doing forecasting manually and doing some sort of manual schedule assignment, but some of the other functions of workforce management they're not covering. They're not doing capacity planning, and so through the requirements gathering process, they decide to add workforce management technology. Well, so in many cases, there's enablement work that needs to be done to make sure that when you go live with this new technology, that it's staffed properly, that you have the playbooks in place, all the necessary pieces to make that technology deliver that ROI that's planned. Same thing with QM. We see lots of clients either that don't have a quality function or maybe doing it on spreadsheets, or in some cases they do have a quality function and they're going to, where they're doing a small sample of recordings, and then they're going to move to some of the new AI driven technology that allows them to evaluate all of the calls. And so, we'll work with clients to modify their scorecards in order to capture all the data that they can capture through this new analysis, but also more importantly, to help them figure out a performance management function to drive those learnings through the organization to drive performance gains. And I think that that's a key piece, that as you adopt new technology and new capability, to kind of think through to say, what else, where are we at organizationally to capitalize on this? What level of effort do we need to deploy to capitalize on the ROI? Or maybe there's a minimal ROI forecasted through the adoption of the technology. What more can we get by taking a look at this a little differently? So maybe Kylie, move to the next. So the other thing that, and this happens a lot, where we're looking at, you're moving from a very simple or a call flow that is in your, you may have a DTMF menus in your IVR. And so, now in order to realize deflection gains or to reduce transfers, there's all sorts of additional capability in these tools that you want to take advantage of. And that may require an IVR flow redesign. So flow changes, menu modifications, things like that, new skilling and routing directions. And then, or many times there's opportunities identified that could require process simplification that may automate a function of the call that may have been handled previously by agents in order to deliver AHT reductions or things like that. And so those processes require a deeper dive and modification and design work to make sure that when it's deployed, it's actually set up to deliver the gains that are identified in the that you're capable of receiving by adopting this new capability. And I think that's a key part. And it seems common sense. It is common sense, but many times we see that the handoff between the selection of the technology and the deployment of the technology, there's a gap there where where the capability is not designed into the call flow in order to realize that. One of the first consulting engagements that I worked on, we were called in by a client who had adopted new CCaaS technology. They migrated away from a premise-based system, and they saw capability in the sales process that indicated that they were going to be able to deflect a large percentage of their calls, and they built that deflection assumption into their budgets going forward. And then 6 months post deployment, when they went back and reevaluated, they weren't actually achieving any of those deployment objectives. And so they were really puzzled as to why. And so they brought us in to take a look at that. And when we looked at the flow, when we actually looked at the call flow, there wasn't even actually any of these deflection or whether it be automation or these self-service functions had not actually been built into the design. Because when they went from sales to to deployment. And this wasn't a case where Inflow was involved in the selection process. It was done. They selected a supplier on their own. They didn't, when they went to deployment, the handoff wasn't good, and they basically deployed. They lifted and shifted their old design into their new technology, and so they were achieving the exact same results. And so it's surprising to me that the amount of times we actually see this. And then lastly, there's lots of times in the discovery work that you do as you're gathering requirements that just plain old contact center performance issues are identified. Examples, you'll see attrition issues in the contact center, which I think a lot of people are dealing with right now. Specific performance issues like abandoned percentage, service level, ASA, that could be issues that could be caused by a lot of different things. Or efficiency opportunities. We see this a lot where AHT is climbing, after call work is climbing. And so, in many cases we're brought in to basically fix what's broken. And so this is a key part of what we do, that in many cases these things are identified, and you should be looking for these things and addressing them as you do your CCaaS migration, because these challenges are going to come up through the requirements, through those feedback sessions as well. So just to kind of close it out and then open it up for questions. In summary, and is plan to succeed, and Stanton hit that hey, you need to have a good plan and a good timeline. And then I think this is really important, and that use the requirements and a data-driven selection process to make your selection. There are subtle differences between the platforms, the tools that will drive, that will make a real impact in your in the success of your adoption of this new technology. And then design or optimize those things that you have to do pre-deployment to maximize your return on investment and to really smooth everything out as you move forward. So from there, I'll open it up to everyone for any questions that you might have. And we've got a few minutes left over. We've got about 10 minutes or so left over in the time that was allotted. And so, does anyone have any questions? So if not, yeah, I really want to thank you for your time. If you want to get in touch with us, here's how you can do it. We really enjoyed sharing this information with you today. And if you have any questions or anything in the future, don't hesitate to reach out to us. And I hope you all have a great day.